Hey everybody, welcome to Touchdown BC. It's go time once again in the CIS, NCAA Div 2, the BCFC, and of course BC High School football, meaning I'm back on your television set. I'm sorry I'm not better looking. Segue alert. You know what's not good looking? The UVC Thunderbirds start to the 2014 CIS schedule. They rolled into Manitoba this week to take on a tough Bisons team with a solid offense and an even bigger defense. Now, following the Alberta Golden Bears' first win in 4 years this past weekend over Regina, UBC needs a win or they fall back into the trunk of the Canada West. Let's get to those highlights. UBC visiting the Bisons. Welcome to beautiful Winnipeg, Manitoba, ladies and gentlemen. UBC in dire need of a W after an embarrassing homecoming loss to Calgary in week 2, 2-0 late in the first, and it's a handoff to Keenan LaFrance. He finds a hole, makes some gorgeous jukes. Man against boys. LaFrance makes it look easy from 22 yards out. It's 9-blank for the Peggers. Not to be outdone, Carson Williams says, whatever you can do, I can... Oh no. Not so much. Big Evan Foster with the sack. Williams was under attack all day. This is Foster's second QB smack. Then it's James Mao, completely untouched, blindsides Williams. When he finally got a throw in, well, that one's picked. That's Tyler Fong with the thievery. UBC falls to 0-3. They lose 20-10. With the Alberta win, the T-Birds are now dead last in the Canada West. They will have a chance at their first win this weekend, though, when those Golden Bears make the trip out to Point Grey. All right, let's take a look now at your Canada West standings. Calgary, nobody is touching those Dinos. They're at 3-0. That will improve very soon this weekend. Manitoba, 2-1. Saskatchewan, 2-1. They're followed by Regina. Alberta, who's now second last. UBC dead last at 0-3. All right, we welcome in Andrew Wadden, our UVC Insider, fresh from the clearance aisle at Value Village. It is Casual Friday, I suppose.
Value Village, this is winners, buddy.
Okay, all right.
It's better than looking like the...
Brand names, not brand prices.
It's better than looking like the Travago guy like I had last week.
That's true.
Right?
I was kind of getting into that, though.
You were going to get there?
You were giving out some good deals at the break.
I beat you to it.
Yeah, Galapagos Islands for cheap. It's not bad. Why don't we talk a little football here? That's what the name of the show is here. Let's touch on the good, if there is any, from UBC's loss.
UBC's loss to Manitoba over the weekend. Not a whole lot of good to break down in the game, considering the team is now 0-3 on the season. Adam Morrison is one sign of good for the UBC Thunderbirds. He had over 100 yards. I think it was 7 catches in the game. Brian Rideout had himself a good game. Donovan Dale had himself a good game. And they had a good second quarter. The rest, maybe not so much.
Well, why don't we hit that? Let's touch on the bad.
All right, the bad for me is something I spoke on last week on the show, the rushing game and the lack of rushing game that the UBC Thunderbirds are trotting out. Terrell Davis, Brandon Deschamps, the guys, the beasts, the guys they got in the backfield. How many rushes between the two of them this week? 19. 85 total yards of rushing for the team. It's not going to cut it. You're throwing the ball too much. For a team who's got two workhorses like Deschamps and Davis, they got to start running the ball. And it was a sloppy mess in Winnipeg that night. It was raining. But, you know, it's not going to cut it when you got 85 yards on the ground, and that's something that UBC is going to have to pick up.
I feel like of all teams, UBC should be used to the rain as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're playing in rainy Vancouver, you should be used to it.
That's the element.
And especially since last year, I mean, if you look at the team last year, they were one of the top teams in rushing in all of the Canada West, and Brandon Deschamps going for over 1,000 yards. Brandon Deschamps, to get 1,000 yards this year, is going to have to get a heck of a lot more carries than what he's getting on average right now.
Why don't we talk about the ugly? Does it get uglier?
Possibly.
Okay, all right.
It possibly could get uglier for the UBC Thunderbirds. They have the Alberta Golden Bears, the dreaded Alberta Golden Bears, in town this weekend coming up. Now you say, oh, well, it's the Alberta Golden Bears, you know, UBC is going to get their first win of the season. Well, not so fast. I mean, Alberta put their first win in the win column in 4 years. They hadn't won since 2010 over the weekend. 2 weeks ago, they took Saskatchewan, a very good club, to overtime. So it's not a lock for the Thunderbirds to win this game. The Thunderbirds are going to have to come out, and they need this win. If they fall to 0-4, you might be able to kiss the playoffs goodbye.
Well, last week we had the Andrew Wadden self-titled top 3 picks of the week. What do we have this time around?
Well, we don't have 3 picks this week, unfortunately. I scoured through the statistics. There's a few guys that they could have maybe made it, but I don't want to use them yet this week. So the only guy I have is from the Manitoba Bisons. His name's Tyler Fong. He's a product of Victoria, played at Mount Douglas. He had a key interception with just over 2 minutes to go in the game. UBC down by 7, and inside the 50 of the Bisons. Fong gets the interception. It leads to 3 more points for the Bisons, and that's all she wrote for the T-Birds.
Prediction this weekend.
This weekend?
Just say it. Just say it.
I think UBC is going to pull it off. On Crown Countdown U this week, and I know you've been watching Crown Countdown U because, you know, you love football, right? But I did predict that the Alberta Golden Bears could beat the UBC Thunderbirds this week, and I think they could beat them, but in the end of the day, on the road for Alberta, less roster coming with them, so obviously the depth is an issue there at that point. So I think the T-Birds are going to get their first W of the season, but it's going to be close, and I would not be surprised if it goes to overtime, and I'd be fine if it went to overtime, because maybe it'll give the boys the kick in the behind that they need to get the season going.
All right, there you go. His name's Andrew Wadden. He's going to buy a new shirt momentarily, and he's our UBC Insider. So the T-Birds now have an 0-3 start to the year. Would SFU follow suit? Well, they are headed into the belly of the beast. Azusa Pacific won the 2013 GNAC title, but they do have a 500 start to the year. Could Azusa help and make UBC look, well, not as bad and equal their Crosstown Brothers record? Let's hope not. All right, we pick things up on the opening kickoff of the second half with the Clan trailing by 20 after 30. Earl Anderson makes a few guys miss. He keeps to the outside. He would get it all the way up to the Azusa 40, a nice looking return. A few plays later, Ryan Stanford finds running back Cole Tudor, who ducks under a defender, squirts his way into the end zone. Clan clawing back. A little later, Stanford would connect with Kyle Kawamoto for the diving catch on 3rd down. That's a 16-yard pickup. Later in the drive, tight end Andrew Pauls would climb the ladder in the back of the end zone for the 7-yard score. The Clan then concedes a safety. Really? Well, the Cougars would take full advantage as QB Chad Jeffries fakes the handoff, waltzes into the end zone. That puts Azusa up 32-17. Another stall drive, SFU punting, and Nikolai Karpoon's high kick allows the coverage to swarm. No return. The defense would then force a 3-and-out. The Cougs give them an absolute gift as well. Look at this. A brutal 14-yard punt, putting the Clan at the 5-yard line. Stanford then finds Jamal Kett in the end zone. This makes it 32-24. We've got a 1-score ball game. Now, SFU needing a nice onside kick to keep their hopes alive. They get one courtesy of Tiernan Doherty. He comes through in the clutch. They recover. First play following the kick. Stanford eludes the rush and moves out of the pocket to toss a beautiful strike to Bobby Pospichil in the dying minute. They just couldn't get anything going after that, though. Stalled play after stalled play. SFU loses again, 32-24. Ryan Stanford didn't exactly tack a ton of yards up on the board, but 3 touchdowns is pretty impressive considering. Meanwhile, Tanner Henry was the man for the Cougs, pulling in 2 majors on 4 catches. All right, let's take a look now at those GNAC standings. Humboldt State sits atop the table. They look sharp to start 2014. SFU, not so much. They are now at the bottom. They are 0-3. All right, following in another SFU loss, we welcome back Mac Dalgleish. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
SFU Insider, as always. Let's just get your thoughts on the game.
Well, it didn't start out well. Down 23-3 at the half. Things looked pretty poor. Jacques Chaplin questioned their effort last week, came out, did the exact same thing this week. But at halftime, whatever was said, whatever was done, the adjustments that were made, it turned things around. Earl Anderson started things off with a 52-yard kick return, put them into Azusa territory, and that kind of got the offense going. Special teams in the kicking game, beautiful onside kick as you saw. Tiernan Doherty, who made the onside kick, also made a 39-yard field goal, and Nikolai Karpin becoming a weapon in the punting game. So could this be a moral victory for SFU moving forward? Last year they had games that were close, but they weren't able to keep it going the next week. Can they do it this week with Jacques? Remains to be seen.
All right, now you're the only guy in the province that has the Azusa Pacific package with Shaw TV, so you watched every single play, every down. What stood out to you particularly?
Two players that stood out to me, one on offense, one on defense, was on offense, Cole Tudor, running back. Chris Tolbert was knocked out with an injury. He didn't come in, not put Cole Tudor in. Over his 3 years up on Burnaby Mountain, he hasn't done a lot with SFU. This time it put him into the spotlight. He proved he could do it. He had 50 total yards, had a touchdown receiving, squirted underneath the defender, getting into the end zone for the touchdown. He was able to pick up blitz protection in the passing game, and going forward, it gives SFU another kind of back to go with. And then on the defensive side, Jordan Herdman had 20 tackles. That's, wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah. 20 tackles, 11 more than anyone else in the game. So far this season, he's had 42 total, 13 more than anyone else in the conference, and he was all over the place. Abe Elamimian just saying how he's a sideline-to-sideline type player, and he's proving that.
All right, now something you see more often than not in the Canadian game rather than the American rules is the safety. But there was a conceded safety in this game. Can we just touch on kind of the reaction to that play?
Yeah, SFU was pinned down on their 1 yard line, unable to get out of their own end zone, and they put receiver Jamal Kett, big 6'5" receiver there, so the ball wouldn't get out, and he took a knee to concede the safety. Now, watching the game, the commentator just was perplexed. He had no idea what was going on. Obviously, he hasn't done his CFL homework up here, and Jacques Chapdelaine in his background, and it was a strategic move. Why punt the ball out of your end zone, giving them, the opposing team, at the 35-yard line? You take the 2 points, flip field position. Unfortunately for SFU, that didn't work out in the end because Azusa came down and scored a touchdown on the ensuing drives to go up 9 points on the play. So, yeah, Americans will have to kind of get the read on Jacques Chapdelaine and his strategy.
A little bit. The man's a question mark. Let's preview next game. Obviously, SFU starting out 0-3. They got to bounce back if they want to make any bit of noise whatsoever this season.
Yeah, this upcoming weekend will be the Border Battle, the first annual Border Battle, which was announced back in July. Athletic directors from Central Washington and SFU were in talks last year about being a rivalry game, getting a rivalry game going. It's going to be in Bothell, Washington, which is kind of in between Ellensburg, Washington, where Central...
Beautiful Bothell.
Beautiful Bothell. Where Central Washington is located, and Burnaby, it's 2 hours kind of in between, just outside Seattle. And with the No Shrum Bowl, I know as you've spoken on this show before and on Crown, that that rivalry SFU hasn't had, and it seems that they're going to try and start something new with the Bothell Bowl. Central Washington is 1-2 so far this season, coming off a 42-second final minute field goal against Toulouse, 38-36 to Western Washington. And so this should be a good battle. Central's usually a ground and pound type team in the past, but this year they've kind of gone to the air more. So SFU will have their hands full trying to stop the run and pass. They split the season series last year, each team winning on the road, so a neutral site game should provide a good chance for SFU to try and get in the win column in a rivalry game. Otherwise, you're staring at a 0-4 record.
Yeah, that's not so good. Like you said, they got to ignite something somehow. Maybe the Border Bowl is the way to do it. His name is Mackenzie Dalgleish. He's our SFU Insider. All right, it's time for a little junior football. Sadly, this week was marred by an absolute tragedy as one of the BCFC family passed away. We'll touch on that momentarily with our insider, Alex Kerrigan. First, though, let's get to the highlights and see how the teams fared with heavy hearts. Pick things up in the second Q. Nathan Lund with the hurdle. He just crosses the goal line. It's 7-zip for the Rams. Rams force a 3-and-out. Raiders have to kick it to John Beckerleg. Beckerleg leading the BCFC in return yards, and he shows why. Nicely done all the way down to the 8-yard line. That's a Beckerleg of a run right there. That would set up the first passing touchdown of the day. It's Rams quarterback Jordan McCarty finding Malcolm Williams in the back of the end zone. 14-0 for Langley. The VI would then put a nice drive together. It's stalled on the goal line. They decide to go for it on third. They do not convert. Langley forced to punt. Next drive for the Raiders, Liam O'Brien with a great deep ball. Receiver Alex Kuchar with a 31-yard touchdown grab. That's 14-7 for Langley. At 3-minute warning, Dan English in the slot, and McCarty finds him no problem. English with a bit of a bobble, but he makes the grab. 21-7 Rams. Only 2 plays later, Liam O'Brien trying to make something happen, but he's picked off by Steven Martinez. Martinez high steps his way into the end zone. From here, the Rams would cruise to victory. Final score, Langley 53, Raiders 14. Okanagan Sun, West Shore Rebels. Rebels punch it all the way down to the 1, and then they decide to fumble. Sun pick it up, Number 34, Alex Bradley does the rest. He chews up the Rebels D, 102-yard carry on the play. He just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going. Next on possession, Josiah Joseph at QB filling in for Cam Bador. Joseph looking good as he darts one out to Thomas Huber, 14-0 for the OKS in the first Q. Next Rebels possession, they would go 3 and out, forcing the punt, fielded by Robbie Yochum. Yochum takes it all the way back to the house. 47-yard punt return from the Yochum. Touchdown, Sun. You get the gist in this one. The final score from the Apple Bowl, 92-7. The Sun pumped the Rebels. Kamloops Broncos, Valley Huskers. Broncos looking to stay in second place. Huskers still looking for win number 1 on the year. Huskers get the first major. They needed it. 12-yard touchdown by Benedict Mukima. Valley trying for the Congrats. They can't get it down. No dice. 6-1 Huskers in the first Q. Valley's next drive helped out by penalties. Quarterback RJ Beggs sneaks it in for that TD. More practice for the Valley Convert team now. They still do need it. Snap high once again. Huskers cannot get to 12-4 for Valley. Broncos driving now. QB Steven Schuweiler airmails it to Dan Cizinka. First touchdown of the day for the Broncos. Second quarter, Schuweiler again with a touchdown pass to Jesse Newfield coming out of tight end to put the Broncos up 17-12. Aaron Smith would add 2 more field goals and they would not look back. Broncos 23, Huskers 14. All right, as the playoff push intensifies, here's a look at your BCFC standings. All right, now, as mentioned, leading into the highlight packs, tragedy for the BCFC. Second-year player JT Fernandez passing away midweek. Can you kind of touch on that and what this means to the league?
I can. Jonte Fernandez passed away on Wednesday night. He was a member of the Okanagan Sun. He affected a lot of people. He wasn't just at Okanagan Sun. Of course, he played with the Coquitlam Falcons community program. He played with the Holy Cross Crusaders. That's actually how Okanagan found him. 2 coaches from the Sun went down to scout out Cam Bador, their star quarterback right now, and they saw Jonte Fernandez playing running back, and they thought, we've got to bring this guy out here. He almost didn't get a chance to play football for the Sun. He had an injury that was misdiagnosed. It was a rolled ankle that they thought it was a rolled ankle. It was actually a ruptured Achilles, which gives you a bit of insight into how athletic this kid was and just how special he was to come back from something like that. And then he switched over to linebacker, and unfortunately the rest is history now.
And now over the years, you crossed paths with Jonte as well. You knew him as well.
I did, yes. Jonte was asked to help out with the White Rock Titans program at the same time that I was asked to come out there. And I was really blown away at his football IQ at such a young age. This is when he was still playing running backs. Him and I would sit down together and break down linebacking, gap assignments, and various defensive schemes. And I was really blown away at that. I was also blown away, a lot of people have touched about this now, but how passionate and personable he really was. He was always the kind of guy to sit down with you and talk about those little problems that you thought were too big or whatever. He always found a way to get at people. Another thing about JT is I always thought he was about 2 years older than he actually was, because he was just such a big guy and he carried himself with this great poise and maturity. The BCFC is really shaken at the passing of Jonte right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be missed on the field and off, no question. But you know, outside of that, I mean, there is still games going on. What's the BCFC looking like heading into the next week?
You're right. There are other things going on, and the last thing I want to touch about with Jonte Fernandez is the 2 teams that I think he affected the most personally, the Langley Rams. He knew a lot of players on that roster. And of course, the Okanagan Sun, the team that he played for, they play each other in Week 10, this upcoming Sunday, Saturday the 28th, 1 o'clock at the Apple Bowl. And that turns a can't-miss game into a must-watch game. It's going to be very physical. If Langley wins that game, they have a chance to unseat Okanagan as first place in the BCFC. If Okanagan wins that, they are a lock for first place. And both teams are definitely going to want to win that one for Jonte. The other big game in Week 10 is The Vancouver Island Raiders taking on the Kamloops Broncos, and Kamloops really wants to get a win out of that one. If they win, they keep pace with the Langley Rams, and they are still second place in the league. If VI wins, they really improve their standings. Week 10 is going to be very interesting in the BCFC.
Should we talk about the Valley Huskers?
They're playing. They're playing.
They're still playing.
Yeah.
They're still playing.
And they still have 2 games left. I'd love to see them get a win. We talked about them last week with them being a little bit of a disappointment, and unfortunately that's true, but I'd love to see them get at least 1 win. They're playing West Shore coming up, and I think it's doable for them.
Yeah, hey, Alberta Golden Bears and CIS got to win. Their first win in 4 years. You never know.
If they can get one, why not Valley?
It's in the stars. It could be in the stars. We'll find out. Alex Kerrigan, he's our BCFC Insider.
Whether it's your first home, a refinance, or an investment property, Kia Grant & Associates can find a mortgage solution for you. In association with Verico Paragon, the work she does for you is free. Find her on Facebook at Kia Grant Mortgages. Crown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Crown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of University football on Shaw. Crown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football.
It was the first week of regular season play in BC high school football without the household names of Marcus Davis, Zach Wilkinson, and Malik Irons. The door seems to be pretty wide open, a little further open anyhow. Every team now has a shot. Every team starts with a clean slate, as you know. Let's get to your high school game of the week between the New Westminster Hyaks and the West Van Highlanders. Just a quick ride up Canada Way. It's not a song, but it could be. Homecoming for the Hyaks, and they did not disappoint the orange and black faithful in this one. Let's pick things up. Already 20 blank late in the first when Jamie Shiho checks into the game and finds Matt Seymour. He's gone. 40 yards later, and it is a 4-score game. Jamie Shiho so far is 1 for 1, 40 yards and a touchdown. Now he has a 50-yard rushing touchdown, takes it up the left side to add to his totals. Pretty sure after this play, his QB rating was 8 billion.4. New West goes into the half, 41-0. Third Q, same story. Shiho hands it off to Connor Pattison. He takes it all the way home. Hold on, though. Laundry on the field, no touchdown. You guys want to try again? Yeah, all right. This time it's Jordan Guzman. He cuts to the left. He takes it up and into the end zone, into that deep, deep, foggy night. And I'm going to call you out here, Jordan. See the scoreboard? Maybe forget the dance moves on this one, you know? The final score, 54-8 for the Hyaks. This one wasn't even close. And now here are the rest of your scores from around BC high school football. All right, let's check out those standings now. STM, Terry Fox, they are perfect so far to top the East, while over in the West, New Westminster, Mount Douglas, and South Delta sit atop the table. All right, we welcome in our BC High School Football Insider, Dino Jeremy from Football BC. You told me to use the accents.
Yeah, that was the best yet. So
yeah, hate to see the worst because that was pretty bad. Let's start things out with parity throughout the league. I mean, because as you saw in the first week, even in exhibition play, lots of blowouts going around. Yeah. How are things going to shape up with this? Are we going to get a little bit more even as we go, or?
I think there's a few things that'll help even things out. Teams obviously get better as we go through the season. I think the teacher strike will help. A lot of the coaches were participating at certain times, practicing off school grounds. So some of the public schools might have had a little bit of a disadvantage, so that definitely played a factor. Now they're able to have kids in school. It adds discipline to the program, allows them to watch film at lunchtime, do some of those extras to improve their game. So I think that's going to help many of the teams. At the end of the day, I still think that there's 4 teams that just have the horses that are going to be there in the end, and that's St. Thomas More, Vancouver College, Mount Douglas, and Terry Fox. And having watched a few games this year and seeing some of the scores, I just not sure if there's any other teams that are going to break that top 4.
Yeah, I mean, well, even with the loss of, say, Marcus Davis, Zach Wilkinson, does Mount Doug, are they still the top dog like they were last year?
Yeah, I think so. They're still really deep because we've been fortunate enough with our Team BC, so I've gotten to know some of their players at the U16 and obviously U18 level, but you know, they're full of talent. You know, Johnny Grovac at receiver, Shea Fairnew, their running back that has taken over. They're still big on the offensive and defensive line. Ashton McKinnon is a standout. I know I get calls from CIF schools all the time on him as a defensive end. So they still have a good core group. They don't have that X factor that I think Marcus and Terrell Davis provided, but they're still going to be one of those top dogs in the end of the day.
You know, you should never do this, but if you were to go to Vegas and put some money down, who would be your team?
I think I'd like to see a few more games, but I think right now, I think the odds makers have it right. I think they're ranked #1. I think Terry Fox will be there in the end.
The Ravens?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Well, you know, you touched on a little bit with Team BC. What else is going on around football BC right now?
We're working with our grades 6, 7, and 8 all-star teams and doing another camp for them. Developing them at younger ages is huge for us. Football has grown and we really feel we need to develop the fundamentals at the younger ages. So they're going to be having a provincial camp in the next little while, looking to compete south of the border. And then our U18s, after the season, we'll start really ramping up with our process with the U18s. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, my BC High School football insider, Dino Jeremiah from Football BC. I'll never do that again. Well, that does it for all of us here at the Shaw Studio in downtown Vancouver. I want to thank all of my guests for joining me. I'm Ryan Sullivan, and I'll see you next week.